Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. We are from group 3, going to present about soft fruits and berries. Our topic today is going to be presented by 6 members of our groups, which are me, Mai Sarah, our leader Nur Hafifah Alia, I Nur Aisha, Nur Hidayu, Nurul Hidayah, and also Halimah Atika. For the introduction, I'm going to differentiate between berries and cherries. Berry seeds is outside the fruits, while cherry seeds is inside the fruits. Berries consist of blueberry, cranberry, and strawberry, while cherries families consist of peach, nectarines, and plum. Berries have one or many seeds, while cherries have only one seed. Berries are in berries family, while cherries are in drupe family. The pits of berries are completely edible, and the pits of cherries are poisonous. Type of berries, which are blackberry, blueberry, currant, raspberry, and lastly, strawberries. Maturity Quality Index for berries family. First one is blackberries. Maturity index for blackberries is at shiny black stage, where it is more turgid and easily detached from the plant. Then we have dark black stage maturity, where the blackberries retain its acidity and astringent. Acidity and firmness decreases as blackberries ripe, and anthocyanin, soluble solid content, sugar content, and pH increases. Then we have raspberries. The raspberries harvested at semi-ripe, where the color is orange-red to red color, and at ripe stage, where the color is red to purple-red color. The semi-ripe is used to export to other countries, and the ripe one is used in local markets. The acidity and firmness decreases as raspberries ripe. The soluble solid content, sugar content, anthocyanin, and pH increases. For blueberries, it can be harvested at 60% blue, where later it needs to be stored 15 days at 2 degrees Celsius in order to get a ripe blueberries. The 60% blueberries is firmer, and the soluble solid content ratio to acidity needed is 20. At 100% blue, the soluble solid content ratio to acidity needed is 30. The 60% blue is used to export, and the 100% blue used in local markets. The acidity and firmness of blueberries decreases as it's ripe, and the soluble solid content Sugar content increases. For currants, there are two types of currants, which are red currants. In order to harvest red currants, the acidity must achieve 2%, where the soluble solid content is between 9.5% to 14%, and it must harvested before bright to dull red color. Next is black currants. It must be harvested at fully black color. The soluble solid content is between 13.5% to 26%. Its acidity must reach 3% to 4.8%. Lastly, we have strawberries. Strawberries have three maturity index stages. The first one is 1/3 maturity, where the color is white to pink color, which is appear 20 days after anthesis. 2/3 maturity, the color is pink to red color that appear 25 days after anthesis. Lastly, full maturity, the color is fully red, which appear 30 days after anthesis. The 1/3 maturity and 2/3 maturity used to export to other countries, and the full maturity used in local market. The full maturity strawberries are more sweeter compared to the 1/3 and 2/3 maturity. The anthocyanin, glucose and fructose, soluble solid content, pH, increases as strawberries ripe, and acidity, firmness, sucrose and chlorophyll decrease.
Next is harvesting process. Harvesting process can be done by two ways, which are hand harvest and machine harvest. This slide shows the soft fruits that harvested by hand. To harvest blackberries and raspberries, hold carefully between the thumb and forefinger and then pull. It is ripe when it can easily be removed from the plant without being squashed and gripping so hard. Also, do not simply pull away the fruits from the plant. Next, do not rush to pick the blueberries as soon as they turn blue, but when they are ready, they should fall off right into your hand. Roll the berry off the stem using thumb and into your palm. Currant fruits grow in clusters. Harvest the whole bunch when it is ripe. Pick the fruit clusters rather than the individual berries. After picking, the individual berries can be stripped from the stems. For strawberry, grasp the stem between forefinger and thumbnail. Then, lightly pull and twist at the same time. Let the berry roll into the palm of your hand. The other way to harvest soft fruits is machine harvest, which has two types. Type 1 is usually used for blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and also currant fruit. First, the machine will straddle one row of the berries and, as they pass, thin fingers on either side of the row will shake or beat the plants with sufficient force to remove only ripe fruit. The removed fruit then will be collected for further process. Then, type 2 is commonly used for strawberry fruit. This machine uses a stereo vision camera, which is basically allowing the robot to see in 3D like humans can. This machine is to discern where the strawberries are. Then it will analyze them to differentiate ripe from unripe berries. Next, the robotic arm is extended to the analyzed strawberry, where its 3 fingers clamp the strawberry, pluck it from the strawberry plant, and deposit it onto a conveyor belt. Next, there are differences between hand and machine harvest. First, the cost involved for hand harvest is quite low compared to machine harvest, because hand harvest just need to pay for the worker's salary, while machine harvest need to buy a high quality machine, which will increase the cost during harvesting process. Second, machine harvest will cause excessive damage to the berries compared to hand harvest. The force applied to the fruit by using machine may cause more damage because of its soft texture. Third, by using hand harvest, the berries can be selected more precisely at optimal maturity stage. This is because the pickers can make a selection and choose to pick only the ripe berries and avoid from picking the rotten or bad berries. Next, hand harvest need long time for harvest process compared to machine harvest. For example, a machine can pick a hectare of vineyard in no more than 5 hours, while hand labor could take between 1 and 10 days to harvest the same area. Lastly, the workers require intensive training to do the harvest of berries, but machine harvest less labor management problem. After harvesting, the soft fruits should be pre-cooled immediately. Pre-cooling means quickly removing the heat from freshly harvested fruits and vegetables, which reduce the loss in quality of product once it is been picked, reduce respiration rate and extends crop storage life and thus take longer time to rot, inhibits the growth of various microorganisms, thus reducing the possibility of post-harvest diseases. There are 2 types of cooling that can be considered, which are forced air cooling and room cooling. Forced air cooling happens when the cool air is forced to move rapidly through the containers, allowing the cool air to be in direct contact with the warm fruits. In forced air cooling, the pellets are stacked in 2 rows in a cold room with space left between the 2 rows to form a tunnel. A box fan is placed on one end of the tunnel. Negative pressure created by the tunnel pushes the warm air out of the cartons and into the room. Room cooling is the product simply loaded into a cold room, and cold air is circulated around the carton and do not have the additional application of the fans, only appropriate for very small amounts of product or product that does not deteriorate rapidly. Room cooling is a relatively low cost but very slow method of pre-cooling. The slide shows the example of pre-cooling process of soft fruits. The most common method to pre-cool soft fruits is forced air cooling. This is the fastest cooling method because can reduce the cooling time. Forced air can cool berries to 0 to 5 degrees Celsius within a few hours, whereas room cooling may take up to 9 hours. The optimal temperature for storing the berries is at 1 degree Celsius with a relative humidity of 95%. Without the right amount of humidity, they lose moisture. For instance, the loss of moisture will turn the plump, juicy blackberries into small, shriveled and black rocks. Plus, when strawberries rapidly cool down to 0 degrees Celsius, it shows the threefold storage life compared to those fruit maintained at 10 degrees Celsius.
For further processing, the berries should undergo treatment first in order to control the berries' quality. Wash the berries is not a good way to maintain the quality because washing before retail can make the skin of the berries damage easily and enhance infections by pathogenic bacteria. Berries treatment is to delay the growth of fungal in order to get these high quality fruits. If we did not perform the treatment, these fresh berries will be rotten easily. There are a few treatments that we can use for berries, such as tea tree oil, which is categorized as essential oil. Next is gibberellic acid and salicylic acid. Both of these acids are organic acids and cause no harm to us. The radiation treatment used is called UVC, which is short-wave ultraviolet. The wavelength range is between 200 to 280 nanometer. Besides, tea tree oil can reduce the accumulation of hydrogen peroxide, which will decrease the microbial growth, while gibberellic acid is known as maturation retarder, which we can control the color degradation of berries. However, salicylic acid controls berries ripening. The most common way for berries treatment is using the UVC. The reason of using UVC is because it has the highest germicidal effectiveness between wavelength from 255 until 265 nanometer. This range of wavelength is where the bacterial DNA absorbs the highest amount of UV rays. Next, UVC has less effect on the nutritional value depletion, like phenolic compound and sensorial quality of berries. Furthermore, UVC uses lower energy consumption, which is no heat and pressure used. The most important thing is it has uniform radiation on the fruit surface. In addition, UVC is non-toxic, so no harm to our health. From this figure, UV light is just before visible light. The UVC is known as germicidal UV. For example, like strawberry, the normal UVC dosage used is 0.25 until 4.30 kJ per meter square. This range of UVC can induce the expressions of the defense response genes. Then, this will slow down the enzymatic activity. So, this will stop the strawberry cell wall degradation. After that, it will prevent softening and at the same time defend fungal spoilage such as grey mold by Botrytis cinerea. For your information, strawberry has thin cuticle layer naturally. This cuticle layer helps to prevent spoilage. That's why seller who wants low-cost treatment is suggested to not wash the berries since they have their own natural prevention. Besides the radiation treatment, chemical treatment also preferable, such as tea tree oil, gibberellic acid, and salicylic acid. Tea tree oil used for berries is originated from Melaleuca alternifolia. This tea tree oil can decrease proliferation of fungi in the presence of active agent, terpeninfool. Terpeninfool will trigger the production of antioxidants such as phenolic compound, thus prevent from fruit rots, anthracnose, and leather rot. For gibberellic acid, from this graph, the x-axis is the time, while y-axis is germination percentage. The lowest graph line is the control, which the sample is not treated with gibberellic acid, and the highest graph shows the sample is treated with the highest amount of gibberellic acid. From the graph of highest amount acid used, we know that the berries start to maintain its germination at 40 onwards. This proves that gibberellic acid helps to retard maturation by delaying color generation and slowing down ripening speed. Meanwhile, for salicylic acid, it accelerates berries ripening. If we harvest the unripe strawberries, we can treat them with salicylic acid because salicylic acid stimulates the ethylene production, which can fasten softening and at the same time increase the anthocyanin biosynthesis.
Next, move to the packaging. In terms of packaging, it depends on the storage of the berries, which are room temperature, freezing, and chilling. For freezing, there are two types of freezer, which are normal freezing and freeze-dry. So, let us start for room temperature. For room temperature, we usually use LDPE 50 micron to store our berries. There are one research proof that this packaging can increase the shelf life of berries with 3/5 maturity as they will retain in the weight loss, total soluble solid titratable acidity, ascorbic acid content, and organoleptic properties. This packaging is a better choice compared with other types of packaging if we want to store our berries in the room temperature. Based on the literature, the shelf life of the berries usually only 1 day in the room temperature. However, by applying this packaging, the berries can be kept for 4 days.
Next is freezing. There are two types of packaging shown in this slide. The purple packaging is the normal freeze berries. This type of berries can stay in the freezer for a longer time. Consumer can defrost the berries before they consume it. It also can be used to make other food products such as berry smoothies. For the red packaging, it is a freeze-dried berries. This freeze-dried berries is much easier to handle as they can be kept in the room temperature after the berries have been freeze-dried. Their shelf life is very long, but the equipment is quite expensive. Moving to another slide. For chilling condition, berries can be kept in a few types of containers such as clamshell, tray, and top seal packaging. Each of these types of packaging is very different from each other. For clamshell packaging, they offer a good air circulation even when being stacked. This is good when we have a limited space for chilling. The outer layer of the clamshell is used to protect the berries during the transportation as it is quite hard. For tray packaging, the berries usually will be put individually in one big tray like an egg. Each berry will have the individual space to avoid the outer part of the berries come into contact with each other. Sometimes, they will come together with the bubble wraps or something like sponge at the bottom of the tray to pile up the berries and make them resistant to the rupture. Next is the top seal packaging. This packaging is adaptable for modified atmosphere as it can increase the shelf life and lowering the weight loss. For this kind of packaging, manufacturer will seal on top of the packaging to avoid other unwanted gas to come into contact with the berries. In the term of costing, we can see into two views. Let's start with the packaging first. For the packaging, the tray packaging usually will give higher cost compared to the clamshell packaging. Usually, for the tray packaging, the berries comes with the premium quality as manufacturer will try their best to protect the berries quality. As we can see in the slide, berries in tray packaging cost 118 ringgit, while the berries in the clamshell packaging surely cost lower. Next, for the storage. Chilled storage will give higher cost compared to the room temperature storage. This is due to electricity consumption for a chilled storage. On the other hand, the storage also need to be very spacious if we want to keep a lot of berries inside. While for a room temperature storage, we do not need any electricity and we can also store the berries anywhere we want. Next is the storage requirement. For soft fruits and berries, they need to be stored at low temperature and high humidity condition. With the proper temperature and relative humidity, the post-harvest life of the berries can be extended. Other than that, the reason why we need to store the berries properly is to preserve the quality as maximum as we can. This includes the good color and flavor, firm texture, optimum soluble solid and acidity, and lastly the resistance to decay. Next is to preserve the nutrients contained in the berries such as protein, carbohydrates, vitamin C, and other minor vitamins and minerals. Proper storage also can delay the growth of microorganisms, especially molds, during storage time. The first one is currants. For currants, it must be stored at temperature of negative 0.5 to 0 degrees Celsius and at relative humidity of 95%. This condition will contribute to at least 10 to 28 days of post-harvest life. For strawberries, it can be stored at 0 to 1 degree Celsius and at 90 to 95% of humidity. The post-harvest life of this soft fruit can be extended till 4 to 8 days prior to packaging. Blackberries should be stored at 0 degrees Celsius and in 90 to 95% of relative humidity. The post-harvest life can be extended till 5 to 14 days. Next is blueberries. Blueberries should be stored at negative 0.5 to 0 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity should be at least 90%. The post-harvest life can be extended to 12 to 14 days. Lastly, for raspberries, the storage temperature should be negative 0.5 to 0 degrees Celsius and at relative humidity of 90 to 95%. This condition will extend the post-harvest life of raspberries till 2 to 5 days.
Now we go through to the distribution for berries. Three types of transportation being used such as road transport, air transport and rail transport. Before that, the significant factor during transportation when the temperature needs to be below 2 degrees Celsius and humidity with 90 into 95%. Firstly, for road transport, need to be a refrigerated truck. Before transit, the thermometer setting should be calibrated and the temperature monitor within below 2 degrees Celsius. Cool the transport vehicle to the desired transit temperature before loading. This is to maintain the freshness, quality and extend the shelf life of the loads. When arrived at destination, unload the load directly to warehouse quick as possible and maintain the temperature within 2 degrees Celsius. The use of built-in fans inside the truck and dunnage block can improve airflow and good temperature management. Dunnage block help to stabilize the pallet and keep the load from touching within the truck wall and floor as this prevents warming from the heat outside. Secondly, air transport. Berries should receive the same preparation and protection as for road transport. Berries should be cooled for as long as possible before being staged for air cargo handling. Efforts should be made to minimize exposure of berries and pellets to open sunlight, especially on hot stage area. Reflective pellet covers with cold packs may help reduce warming. When arrived at their destination, pellets cover should be removed and the berries should be returned immediately to refrigeration using forced air if possible to recool them near to 0 degrees Celsius as quickly as possible. Tests have shown that even though berries may warm during transport, it is better to provide cooling whenever possible than not to cool at all. Next, rail transport. Before transit, the loads need to be wrapped with plastic and using polyethylene crates. Then insert the loads into the wood veneer wire-bond crates. Salt should be added at least 400 pounds into the water in ice bunkers. The loads will pre-ice 6 to 12 hours close to 0 degrees Celsius before loading. Rapid dry ice was added to improve the pre-cooling process. Process of pre-cooling speed up when built-in electric fans were used into the railroad scarf. This helped to provide proper air channel flow in the load. After transit, when the loads arrive at the destination, Remove the loads into the refrigerated truck for rapid cooling. And when delivered to the store, make sure maintain the cold temperature for the berries. There are some good practice and procedure need to be considered. We need to make sure the vehicle is suitable, clean, daily inspection and sanitation. The pallet arrangement of loads in the truck also important to allow proper cooling and air circulation to pass between the load walls and the floor. The use of drainage block can improve airflow and good temperature management. Drainage block help to stabilize the pallet and keep the load from touching within the truck wall and floor as this prevent warming from the heat outside. Then, make sure a suitable container being used, such as relative pallet cover, polyethylene, and wood veneer wire-bond crates. This helps to prevent warming and improve cooling properties.
In conclusion, post-harvest for soft fruits covers the importance of maturity indices, harvesting processes, pre-cooling, treatment, packaging, storage, and distribution. These steps are crucial to have less deterioration of the soft fruits, so that the soft fruits can have longer shelf life and stay fresh until it reaches to the consumer.
Open up, UOPN